Did you enjoy acting? What was being in Hollywood like? And what movies have you been in?
I loved it. And there is still, I don't think that there's anything that I love more than performing. I was deathly shy when I was younger. And so as a way to get me out of my shell, my mom encouraged me to, I did like musicals at my brother's high school while they were in Chattanooga, which is a town outside of Nashville where I lived for a while. And while we were growing up. And it was just her way to get me on stage and to make me comfortable being in front of people and talking to people because I was so uncomfortable with it. And so it was kind of like a utility thing at first and a way for me to be social and try something new. Ended up falling in love with it, clearly came out of my shell. And then I just kept going around and doing different theatrical productions, and that ended up being like, okay, now you're moving from, community theater to you've auditioned to a regional production of something. Okay, now you're doing like a month and a half long run of something and you're getting paid for it. Now we were driving from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Atlanta to do a show, and I would live there for 5 days of the week with my mom and do a professional show, come back to Chattanooga on the weekends, was performing with the Atlanta Symphony and Opera, and then ended up being in New York, auditioning for Broadway shows and doing workshops. And then I had a whole team there. I had agents and managers, and it was around the age of 11 or so that they said, we want you to move out to Los Angeles and start doing film and TV. So I ended up going out there, which at that point my mom had said she never wanted to live in California ever again, because that's where she was born, where all my brothers were born. She was like, damn it, like this child is like pulling me all over the country. But like I said, she is the kind of parent, we had the flexibility, and she had the resources and the interest and the commitment to us, being developed as very distinct individuals, that whatever any of us were interested in, she found a way to make that happen for us. And so thankfully, my brothers are 12 and 14 years older than me. I was basically an only child at that point. They were off either at a boarding school or one of them was in college at that point, that she was able to say, okay, we can go to Los Angeles for 6 months out of the year and you can work. And so I loved it. Hollywood in itself is a ridiculous industry. It's very corrupt. It's very difficult to work in. It's very unstable, and it's hard on the creatives. I don't think that's talked about a lot, but you're really whipped around by the people who run that world. So the technical side of it is very difficult. I lucked out. I had a great team for the entire time that I was working there, so I was protected from a lot of that by, again, a fantastic parent and a really, really great team. But it is difficult, and that's why we see so many, former child actors come out of this world just being absolutely messed up, for very good reason. Like they chew you up and they spit you out. But the art form itself, I love it. I did more TV shows than film. So I did the reboot of Heathers, which is probably my biggest thing, that actually got canned because it was too anti-woke, which is weird. It was kind of ironic that I got to do something that was politically more aligned with me, I think unintentionally, but they were making fun of woke culture when they were rebooting the classic cult movie Heathers into a TV show, and really flipped all of the woke stereotypes on its head. And we were supposed to come out around the time that the Parkland shooting happened. And because there's gun violence in Heathers, they scrapped it and basically recut the entire TV show, took out a lot of the offensive parts, and then aired it. And then Paramount said, you're not doing another season. This was too politically incorrect. So in a way that was sad, because that was supposed to be this entire cast. We were all working actors, but none of us had been never had that skyrocket. Now oh my God, you're you're like a household name. And it was supposed to be, that was the project that was supposed to do that for us. So it was sad in that sense, but it also kind of feels like a badge of honor in a way. 'Cause it's I actually got to do a project. I actually got to work on something that was, fighting at least a little bit of a fight against, some of the industry, political standards that Hollywood has. But
so how did you, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. No, keep going.
I was just going to say, and then just some kids TV shows growing up. I did a Fox miniseries, which was actually about BLM, ironically. So I've done, projects on both sides of the political spectrum, lots of indie films, that sort of thing, commercials all over the place, but worked consistently for 10 years. And I think a lot of people they'll look at my IMDb, or they'll, the people that disagree with me politically, and I'll get hate comments and that kind of thing. It's oh my God, I can't believe Daily Wire hired a B-list failed child actor. And it's yeah, well, I didn't end up being a household name, and that was never something that I
come on. Anybody who would say that also has nothing going on in their lives at all.
Exactly. And it's
what are you doing?
I was I don't really care. But it also is, if you have that many credits, it's like from the age of, 10 to 16, I was funding my apartment in LA. I emancipated myself at 15. And so at that point, I was like fully financially, independent in a way from my acting. And it's like, even though I wasn't, I didn't have millions of followers and wasn't, talked about at the Emmys or whatever. It's like there are thousands of actors that make a living every day and you don't even know what their names are. But it cracks me up that that's their usual. They haven't been able to find many things to hate on me about. And so usually that's the one that they go for, but it just cracks me up.
She graduated university too early.
Right?
That could be
How
one.
dare
Yeah.
she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's a nerd.
Good for
She's a
you. That's a lot. That is a lot to do before the age of 20 or at the age of 20. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay. Where does law school come into play there?
When I graduated from UCLA, I had decided that I wanted to walk away from acting for a myriad of reasons, part of which, and I usually talk about the political one, but I don't think like personality type wise, it's not that I'm not cut out for that industry. It's just not something that I think I'm, that my personality type fits in with, because as an actor, as a creative, you're out of control. Like you are told, like you have an audition at this point, at this time of day, you have to change your entire schedule for it. Your shoot, starts at 3 a.m. and then you're off at 2, or you might have a night shoot that starts at 10 p.m. and you have to work around that. Within like a 3-day notice, you could be, sent to, Vancouver to shoot something, or I would be on vacation and they would say, you have an audition right now. Like you need it. Like this is huge. You have to film it. I don't care if you're with your family. And as a result, it makes it very difficult to have any autonomy over, your life and things that you want to do outside of acting. Everything really has to be boiled down into this little bubble that you're in. And I'm interested in way too many things. And so it made it very difficult to explore that. A lot of my team, my agents and managers didn't like that I was focusing on my education. It was like, you're going to college? Like, oh, okay, well, can you still act? And I was like, well, I can, do auditions outside of my class times. And it was like, I made it in my college career was incredibly difficult in a way because I was working around a career. And that's a choice that I made, and I'm not upset about it. But my classes were like exclusively, 7:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. so I could be available for auditions. And then I would do like classes that would start at 6:30 and would go to 10 p.m. sometimes. And the middle of my day had to be free, for appointments. And I just hated the fact that I had no control over any of it. And as somebody that like my Myers-Briggs type is like ENTJ, and I'm I did an Enneagram test the other day. I think I'm an 8 maybe, but
Have you taken my
types,
dad's? Have you taken
I
my
haven't.
dad's? Okay,
but
why?
I need to. That was in the comments.
You need to take that one.
I'm doing like a series where I go through all of the tests, and like your dad's is on the list to do that next. So I'll film that and I'll make sure I send it to you.
Yeah, please do. I bet I could guess it.
Yeah, we'll see after this. Maybe you can type me. But all of my personality types are, and what I value and I know that I value is having control over, my life, where I move, what I do, and that industry does not allow it. So all that being said, I knew that I didn't think long term I was going to be happy having that as a career, especially because I just value control and stability. So I had considered going into production, and I had a myriad of internships at different production companies, but I'd hated how political that side of things got. Like every production company I would work at, I was working on projects that I completely disagreed with. And so as any, student who comes out of a university with a liberal arts degree, it was like, well, law school. So did the whole application process, took the LSAT, got into a few California schools, and then decided I wanted to get out of California. So I applied the last day for the University of Idaho for their dual MBA JD program, because my mom had just decided to move to Idaho, and got a scholarship, decided to do that. And then the day my orientation was supposed to start in September, I withdrew. And it had been brewing for a couple of weeks, and I talked to a few mentors, and I just, in my gut, thought, this is kind of a cop-out. Like, I don't really think I want to be an attorney. I think I'm just buying myself 4 more years because I feel like the world is, like, in a very, the industry that I wanted to be in, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was already writing for a few political journals. I'd worked with PragerU a bit. I already kind of had my foot in the door with politics. And it felt like, Brett, you're just trying to, shut yourself away and do 4 more years of school so that you don't have to go out and actually figure out what you want to do. And so it was a bit of a freak out moment. And I spent a couple of months in Boise continuing to be a waitress, and I was like being a waitress at a fine dining restaurant, writing for the Foundation for Economic Education. I continued doing videos for PragerU. I got a job at Young Americans for Liberty. I was like, okay, I guess I'll just do this political thing. And then Daily Wire DM'd me in October and said, could we bring you in to like audition for a show? We've seen your content and we want to like build something around you. And I was kind of like, I don't know whether that's, a God thing. I don't know if that's a, just... I always wonder if it's because people have asked me, like, do you think that this is some like freak, like you were blessed, or, but I do think I worked for 10 years in an industry that is, on camera. I developed this stuff, so I obviously worked for it. But I'm just very grateful to be here. So that's kind of the law school aspect of it. I almost did it, but in the end, it wasn't something that I was ever, really vying for.